Let's continue. Yesterday we started this Gewaltige Halacha of Sechar Shabbos, and we went into the Hakdama to understanding, number one, who is the Issa on? And we said yesterday, the Maisa, the Issa of Sechar Shabbos, is on the person receiving the money. However, the person giving the money, if it's a Yid involved obviously, would be over Lifnei Hiva. So that would mean you would be also both to receive and also give the money when dealing with two Jews. When dealing with a Goy, obviously that's slightly different, but when you're dealing with two Jews, number one to receive and number two to give would be an Issa of Sechar Shabbos. What we didn't mention yesterday was a couple of things before I start the Heterim, and that is number one, what is the amount that's also to take? Now this is actually Negea more to a Shaila of banks. And obviously we're not going to go around the room and ask everybody how much money they have in the bank, but it will be enough Gamina how much interest you make each day. I don't know if anybody ever worked this out, and would be enough Gamina legabe dalachos Sechar Shabbos, because the what? Right, okay, we'll talk about bank accounts when we get to it. But the point is, why is there such a difference? How much? Because Sechar Shabbos is an amount. The truth is, every malacha on Shabbos is an amount, right? There's no such thing as there's no share. I mean, Chatzi share also in Torah, but be'ikah, there's always a share for every single malacha that you do for it to be chayiv. Same thing with Sechar Shabbos, right? The issa of Sechar Shabbos has to be a shova pruta. A shova pruta, again, depending on the market rate, can fluctuate depending on the day, but somewhere I would be safe to say between 10 and 30 agorot is called basically a shova pruta, which would mean that anything less than that is not really an issa of Sechar Shabbos. Now I don't believe we're going to deal with sums less than that, but it's important to know that that's the sum that we're dealing with. So that's the what we discussed yesterday. We talked about the inyan of what if it was taken b'di eved? Can you have hana? Which we said you cannot have hana from the money. Either you have to throw it in the yam or you have to give it to tzedakah, like some Sofer said. Now, a couple of things I want to get to before I discuss the hetem. There's many hetem and I want to make them very, very clear. But before we get that, a couple of things, two things be'ikah, and that is one like this. What about returning a favor? For example, let's say, somebody borrowed your talis. It's an interesting example. Someone borrowed your talis during the week and, he returned the favor on Shabbos. Is that considered to be an issa of Sechar Shabbos when someone returns the favor? Or for example, Reb Moshe has a Tshuva Nigros Moshe where he discusses a from doctor, and he talks about the inyan of a doctor swapping and changing his shifts. Right? In other words, if he has a Shabbos shift and he wants to swap it with somebody else's shift, all sorts of things like that. Is that considered to be a form of Sechar Shabbos? In other words, if somebody, quote unquote, pays me back for the favor that I did, is that considered to be an issa of Sechar Shabbos or not? The answer is no. That is not an issa of Sechar Shabbos. So, for example, Natanel, one example would be, I'll babysit your children on Thursday afternoon. You have to babysit my children on Shabbos afternoon. Is that Sechar Shabbos? The answer is no. Even though you're quote-unquote paying me, right? I'm gaining something. The halacha is that's not considered Sechar Shabbos. Now there is an exception to that. Levi Yitzchak, you know the exception to this. Very good. How many Bachum would know that? Levi Yitzchak comes along and says, hold on a minute, there's always a problem of ribbis. What's the problem of ribbis? What do you say? What's the problem of ribbis? Anybody? Ooh, we're getting there, Dovi, very good, we're getting there. The problem is like this, I don't know how many people have this, right? The Ramah says this in Yeridei Samakuf Samasivov, that the Maisa, if you, for example, it's an interesting case, and let's say, for example, you're a teacher, and you have another teacher who says, do me a favor, would you take my class for me? So like, okay, big deal, whatever. I have a chasna in a couple of weeks, I'll ask her to take my class when whatever. If the class that's been taking over is easier than the class that you're going to take over, that means you've got a harder job, that's ribbis. Because you're paying back with something that's worth more or something that's harder. That is ribbis, okay? Unbelievable, right? We learned the Ramah as well, right? This week's Pasha. The Ramah says that if you lend, how many people know this? If you borrow money from somebody, right? I'd like to borrow $100 from you. Is that okay? Don't worry. I will lend you. I will lend you $100 back. Not I'll pay you back. Of course I'm going to pay back. I'm going to lend you $100 next month. Ribbis. Even though it's 100, nothing more, nothing extra, for the exact same amount of time, that is pure ribbis. Shaila v'ribbis ketzutza, shaila v'ribbis daraisa even. Why? Because in the stipulation, when I borrow the money, I'm giving you extra. What's extra? That I'm going to lend you something. That's extra. Anyway, we're not going to go into ribbis at this moment of time, even though it would be kavaldik, we could. But the Meister, the din is, as I said, returning a favor is not a problem of Sechar Shabbos in that way, and therefore there's no problem. And next thing, and before we move on to the Teirim, is what about cancelling a debt? Let's say, for example, somebody owes you money, and you cancel a debt on Shabbos. Is that considered to be an issa of Sechar Shabbos or not? Anybody?
You could just sign on Shabbos.
Yeah, I cancel the debt on Shabbos. What's the thing? Oh, let's make another example. I deduct from an existing debt. Right? I deduct from the money that somebody owes me from an existing debt. What?
Is it Sechar Shabbos when you were?
That's the shaila. Is that Sechar Shabbos?
But you're not getting Sechar Shabbos, only the borrower is getting.
So it depends. If the guy did nothing for you on Shabbos, there's no shaykhs to Shabbos, then obviously it's not Sechar Shabbos. It's not giving you a discount on Shabbos, something did on Wednesday. But let's say he did something on Shabbos. If he did something on Shabbos and you make the price go lower, you deduct from the existing debt, that will be a shaila of Sechar Shabbos because he's gaining something. And that again is for something that was done, a service that was done on Shabbos, it is problematic. Okay, now, I want to talk about the two heterim. It's very, very important. These heterim are often misquoted or unknown, and it's important to know, number one, that it exists and how it exists. That's very, very important. There are two types of havlah. There are two types of heterim. Rashi in Baba Metzia brings down as follows. Rashi says, the Gemara that we quoted yesterday, Nun Ches, the Gemara told us that if you want to hire a worker, or you want to hire a cow, or you want to hire a utensil, or whatever it may be that you're hiring, don't hire it for the day. Because if you hire it for the day, then it means you're paying for the day. And if you're paying for the day, and one of those days is Shabbos Kodesh, you got a problem. Because that's considered to be Sechar Shabbos. Okay, that's simple. That's what we said yesterday. There is a Rashi, where Rashi learns like this. What happens if somebody is what we call havlah? Havlah basically means he's absorbing the payment in weekday payments. Let's just take a very classic example. I pay someone for the month. He gets paid by the month. He doesn't get paid per day. He gets paid by the month. Now it happens to be that in every month there are 4 Shabbosim. So he's doing work on Shabbos also. He's doing work, again it's a Yid. He's doing work, obviously permitted work, all 7 days of the week times 4. I pay him for the month. He gets paid for Shabbos also. Mutter asa, mutter. Why? Says Rashi, that's called havlah. Havlah means you've absorbed the payment of Shabbos within the weekday payment. So I'm not really paying him for Shabbos. I'm paying him for the ganze chodesh, for the whole month or the whole week, whatever it may be, depends on how you set it up. Now, what's the problem with this? Right, first of all, is that understood? Is that heter understood? Dover, you with me? It's pretty simple, right? The problem is it's misquoted, it's misunderstood. In the following way, people think, and I'll give you an example where I've heard this before myself. I've heard it from people that say, I have a babysitter on Shabbos to babysit my children, but it's okay because they also babysit on a Wednesday. They come twice a week, on a Wednesday and on a Shabbos, and every Wednesday I pay them for both. Havlah doesn't mean, let's get this clear, that the payment I'm giving you absorbs in Shabbos. In other words, here's $100. I owe you 50 for Shabbos and 50 for Wednesday. Here's 100. That's not havlah. That's what people think havlah is. They think as long as I give it in one shot and Shabbos is somewhere in there, I'm okay. Havlah means, let's get this extremely clear, that I'm paying you for the whole month. What's the biggest rise, says the Magen Avraham in Shinvov? If you wouldn't show up one Shabbos, would I still pay you? Yes, because I'm paying you for the whole month. You didn't show up one day. I'm not paying you for the day. I'm paying you for the whole month. When it comes to a babysitter, just to make that example, if the babysitter wouldn't come for Shabbos, would you pay them for the hours of Shabbos? The tunnel. You would?
No.
Tovi, absolutely. Of course not. Why would you pay them? You pay them per hour. They get 20, 30 shekel an hour. They come on a Wednesday and a Shabbos. Every Wednesday you pay them for both days. Why? They didn't come one Shabbos. You would pay them? Donnie, you would pay them?
I wouldn't pay someone if they didn't show up.
Right? You wouldn't pay them. No, but when you pay someone for the month, and when you pay someone for the month, it's not being split up per day. It's not paid per hour. It's paid for the month. So you didn't show up one day, so you didn't show up one day. Right? No, so if you have a deal with him, if you didn't show up one day, I deduct some money, so you don't have community if he doesn't show up on Shabbos or Wednesday. But I'm talking about a situation where he's not paid by the hour. When someone is paid by the hour or by the day, and he doesn't show up on that day and you deduct that day, so you're obviously paying him for Shabbos. So when you're paying him on Wednesday for 2 days, you're paying him for Shabbos. Specifically, even if you're giving him the money on a Wednesday, and even if you're just giving it to him in one shot, that's not called Havlah. Am I making this clear? Because this is very, very misunderstood. What is Havlah? Havlah means it's not just one payment, it's one hiring. The hiring is I'm hiring you for both Shabbos and a Wednesday. And if you miss one, nishkavelach, I'm still going to pay because you get paid for the whole amount. That's what it means. That's what Havlah means. Unfortunately, people don't know this, and people think Havlah is not that way, and therefore they're over on an Issa D'Rabbanan of Sechar Shabbos because they don't know that problem. Okay? That's basically the idea. Now, what we'll try to do is we're going to try to give many examples at the end, and we'll go through the example of what's also, and we'll try to get to when it's Havlah and when it's not Havlah in that case. But it's very, very crucial to understand that idea of Havlah, because most people do mix that. I hear this all the time from people. They mix this up, oh, it's Havlah, so it's okay. Not true. Okay, we'll talk about that. We'll get there. Now, just to clarify a couple of things before we move on to the second Havlah, and that is what happens if the main amount of work is on Shabbos. For example, the babysitter comes for an hour on Wednesday, but for 3 hours on Shabbos. That's fine. As long as it's a choshev amount during the week. I'll give you an example. A caterer, how's a caterer getting paid? The second Havlah we'll get to is another heta. But according to the first Havlah, how's a caterer getting paid? You're making a kiddush. You're making a kiddush on Shabbos. The caterer's basically working on Shabbos. Right? And people have big timers. I want to open my business on Shabbos. I'm not allowed. Ain't going to work on Saturday. But this caterer over here has no problem with making money on Shabbos. What's the heta? The heta is what? Amongst other heterim. What's that? Anybody knows?
They're getting paid to make the food.
Right, they're busy before Shabbos, they're busy after Shabbos. Waiters, for example, there are many waiters that are told, can you please come a little bit before Shabbos so that you can set up the tables, come on to Shabbos, take out the rubbish, and this way you're getting paid B'Havlah. What does B'Havlah mean? You're getting paid for the entire unit of the job. The job is do the Kiddush, and that involves Erev Shabbos, Shabbos, and Motzei Shabbos. I'm not getting paid specifically for Shabbos. Now, you can't make a joke. Tell the waiter to come in, put one serviette on the table Erev Shabbos, walk out and come back on Shabbos, and do the rest on Shabbos. That's not called B'Havlah. That's a joke. That's a bit of a joke. That's not called B'Havlah. Havlah means, I know, for example, a caterer who walks into Shabbos, Erev Shabbos, into the house, P'sahai Mishagai. He walks into the house on Erev Shabbos with a große Kegel. He says, okay, this Kegel, £10,000. I've already said where he's from. £10,000. Well, I'm charging you £10,000 a gig. I'll meet you a Kiddush tomorrow also, that's worth £10,000. But Lamaisa, £10,000 on a Kiddush. Unbelievable, people have asagas. In America, that's like cheap, right? £10,000 for a Kiddush. Like, come on, I can buy a couple of bottles of alcohol for that. What am I going to do with the rest of the sushi and the stand of the different types of the, the beef jerky and everything else that they have over there, and 18 different types of herring. You know how it goes, right? So make it a Kiddush in Flatbush. Al Kaponim, so he does that by Havlah. Whenever you absorb the payment inside, as long as there's a choshev amount being done Erev Shabbos, then you are okay. Let's move on. What about preparation during the week? For example, a Balkaira who lines, or a Chazan for that matter as well. How's he getting paid? We'll talk about Schar Mitzvah. We'll talk about whether mitzvahs are different. Is he allowed to get paid? And the answer is you're getting paid what for? The preparation of Erev Shabbos. Rafal Zatzal once told me, you have to tell him that though. You have to tell him I'm paying you for the preparation. It's not enough just to like hold of it. You have to, Mamash tell him, by the way, I'm paying you the preparation, then you're paying for the preparation. Agav, he comes on Shabbos and he also lines on Shabbos. The shayla would be, what if he doesn't show up on Shabbos? Would you pay him for the preparation? Good shayla. Pashtas, you'd have to, right? Because if you wouldn't, it shows you're only paying him for the whole thing. Unless you could say, I'm paying you for the whole job. Nice, the preparation could take a lot longer than the actual lining. That's the Metzias, right? Is that true? Oh, Daniel, our in-house liner, will tell us that preparation takes a lot longer than the actual Meister. If that's the case, so maybe I would, maybe I wouldn't. But still, you give a guy a token, whatever, something you give him, because the Meister did something. Now, that's Havlah number 1. What's Havlah number 2? Havlah number 2 is a Nodib Yehuda. Nodib Yehuda talks about a mikvah. He talks about a case. What happens if you own a mikvah? Are you mechoyev to give everyone your mikvah to use for free? If not, it's Sechar Shabbos. How are you making money on Shabbos? The guy's going to come in. Obviously, he's not going to pay on Shabbos. He'll pay Erev Shabbos, pay Motzei Shabbos, whatever. Are you allowed to charge money on Shabbos for your mikvah? What does he say? Absolutely mutter. Why is it mutter? What happened to Sechar Shabbos? He says, hold on a minute. I have expenses. This mikvah costs me money. I have to pay electricity. I have to pay the water bill. It's cost geld. I'm mechuyev to give you money for free on Shabbos? You come to my house, you want to buy a Coke off me. I'm mechuyev to give it to you for free? No. I'm not mechuyev to give you the Coca-Cola for free. I don't have to charge you. Do I have to charge you cost price? Or can I put the price, I want to make a bit more geld on it? Of course I can put more profit on it. Why not? Why not? That's Havlah. That's Havlah. Says the Noida Yehuda, that's the Marshak, others. That's the second type of Havlah. Where I've absorbed the extra in what I'm allowed to charge. Just like I've absorbed the Shabbos payment in Wednesday's payment. That's one type of Havlah. The second type of Havlah is the Coca-Cola that I'm allowed to charge from. I'm not to give Coke for free. So I'm allowed to charge 5 shekel. I want to charge 8 shekel. Not a problem. Because I'm absorbing it in a cost and I'm allowed to charge. Is that understood? Makes sense, right? That's a different problem. You're right. That's a different problem. That's a problem of Maris Ayin, Mekach, Memka, all sorts of things. But I'll give you an example. The store upstairs, boys have asked me, are they allowed to take a bag of bizarly, for example, and pay the guy after Shabbos? The answer is yes. You pick up a bag of bizarly and off you go. You have to be careful what you say. You can't say, I'm going to pay you. I'm going to weigh it. You have to know how to say it. There's a whole Shulchan Aruch and Shinzayin that talks about this. What's that?
When you buy an aliyah,
Buying a li is different though. Buying a li is, first of all, we'll talk about scham mitzvah. It's for mitzvah because you're giving it to the shul, you're giving it to the Beis Medrash, you're giving it to the moisid, whatever. And also that's also different because there's no service being done. We're talking about a service being done. We're talking about Sechar Shabbos is for work that was done on Shabbos. We'll have to talk about websites, we'll have to talk about eBay. There's a lot to discuss, you understand. But I wanted to get to these different types of havlah, because it's very, very choshev for a person to realize that. And by the way, that's another heter for the caterer. The caterer is charging money for his food. He's allowed to charge money for the food, right? While he's charging money for the food, memela, he can also charge a bissel more geld in that case over there. And that's why Airbnb, and that's why a car. All sorts of things you could charge for, because I'm allowed to charge for the actual keren, for the main thing. Agav, I'm charging a bit more, that's not going to be a problem. So we'll have to see how that goes in all the cases tomorrow. But Hashem, what I want to do is I want to take all the halachas we've learned, shift them into all of the cases that we discussed right in the beginning, and go through case one by one, including having a bank account and gaining interest. What do we do on Shabbos? Have a wonderful day.